Hey everyone, Loner here. This library presentation was filmed around the time my first book came out, Painted Blazes, Hiking the Appalachian Trail with Loner. That adventure, the trail towns, and the people I met are things that I'll never forget, and I think about it every day. During this presentation, I encourage the audience to throw out questions when they had them, so some sections will seem out of order. It's also been trimmed for length, and I added a bunch of pictures to add more detail. I was pretty self-conscious about my weight and really nervous, but it was still fun. At the end of the video, there'll be a question and answer period.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. I'm really excited everyone's here. This is awesome. This is my first time doing anything like this, so cut me a little slack. Thank you, Jennifer, for setting all this up.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming. Thank the cameraman, Ken. He's an old trail named Hike Hunter. Now it's
The bearded groundhog.
the bearded groundhog. And he's going to have a new hostel in Tennessee in the next couple of years. He's been working on it. Who's done some of the AT?
He's got a 5 mile West Bank.
5 months?
It still counts.
2 steps long.
So awesome. Well, what year did you do it?
I did it from 88 to 91.
Awesome. Congratulations. Awesome. And you did a 20-year section hike? This is a long hike?
1996 to 2015.
Wow. So that's pretty good. Over 20 years.
Well, 1996 was the year of my life. Thru-hiking. And I started it, not knowing.
That's awesome. And then you've done a couple hundred miles?
Yeah, just different sections here and there.
Yeah. So, and Trina, where are you at now? Where are you at?
I finished all of Georgia and trying to connect North Carolina and Tennessee. About 2 sections, and then I'll have that first 3 states done.
Okay, let's shut up. Well, I'm Loner. Everyone on the trail gets a trail name. They call me Loner because I usually hang out by myself. Well, the Appalachian Trail is 2,178 miles. It changes every year. That was how much it was the year I hiked. But because of flooding and relocations and everything, it changes. It's 14 states. I know most of you know all the states. And I started in 2012. My mom drove me to Emma Falls. My backpack was 22 liters, which is very small. Most people's packs are in the 35 range. And my pack only weighed 13.5 pounds. But it doesn't count water, because I counted my water in my pockets. He's making funny faces because he's saying 13.5 pounds. What are you talking about? Most people's, their packs in the 35 or 45 pounds. But as you can see, it's just a pretty small pack. I didn't take a lot. I went late spring, so that I didn't have to have as much cold gear. I didn't have a lot of extra stuff. And I would usually carry 4 days of food. I would make it from one town, stop to the next. I prefer to do the approach trail. It's 8.5 miles just to get to the start of the trail, the AT. Sorry, I'm nervous, guys.
You can't tell
Right. Here's Everett Falls, and you just see the first of the steps, and just doing that will wear you out, and make you second guess what you're doing. I made it to the first white blaze right before it got dark. Hey, okay, that's good. I think you can see the excitement on my face. I was pretty happy to begin the journey. And this was the day before Easter. So it was late in the season. A lot of people start much sooner. Ken back there, he likes to hike in the winter. He's always going in February. And he's wondering why there's always snow on the ground and why it's post falling everywhere. One of the first stops you could get to, about 40 or 50 miles in, is Neal Scout. And you can see, that's the only covered area of the whole trail. On the whole trail. And they say that about 40% of people give up by then. They quit. This is the Hiwassee Budget Inn, owned by Ron Haven's Appalachian Trail Hiker Services. Try saying that 10 times fast. So he's kind of a character. He's like a local professional wrestler. And he drives the bus and he picks up the hikers. And, There's a funny story in the book about that particular hostel. This is the North Carolina-Georgia border. This is the John Byron Memorial Fire Tower. And unfortunately, when all those wildfires came through the other year, last year, and they burnt the roof right off. It engulfed the whole thing. Montana Dam. You walk right over the top of that. That's the start of the Smokies. This is the Sack Fire Tower. And the picture doesn't do it justice, it's really tall. I forget how many feet it is. But I made a point to go to the top of each point that you find on the trail. And here's the view. This is not a typical shelter, but it does show that it's a three-sided shelter with the opening in the front. This one's an older one, obviously, with the old logs. That's my buddy Easy Nomad right in the middle. He's from California. He quit his job and he sold his car to come do his hike.
Did he finish? Do you know if he finished?
Yeah, he absolutely finished.
Oh, these shelters, first come, first serve, and
Yep, do first come, first serve for hikers. Usually when the hiker gets there early, he'll lay his sleeping bag where he wants to go. There's usually room for 5 or 6, sometimes 7. Some of the bigger ones can hold up to 20. I would always drag in real late so that it would already be full. That way I can't burrow. There's my hammock system. It mostly shows the tarp. The hammock, as you can see, is all enclosed. You know, a lot of people say, how can you sleep in a hammock for that long? Well, if you sleep at a diagonal, it's not that bad at all. If you sleep straight, it's like a banana. You don't want that. But if you sleep in a hammock at a diagonal, it's real comfortable. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, good to see you. Welcome. You haven't missed much except for me instead of
She might be slight.
I'm glad you're here. This is Clingman's Dome in North Carolina. It's actually the highest point on the whole trail. A lot of people think it's Mount Washington, but it's in North Carolina. And the big joke was it's all downhill from here. And snow was coming in, so I took a day off in Gatlinburg. So the trail goes almost 10 miles from Gatlinburg, so I hitched a ride and went to Gatlinburg for a day and hung out. And we went back to the trail, and it was still a little snow. Not too bad, just enough to say I hiked in the snow during my hike. You know what this one is? Yeah. Good job. Yeah. You see my buddy at the very top? That's firefighter Jonathan.
it's kind of an unusual angle,
Yeah.
you know.
It is.
Already does it for that.
Yeah. Usually, yeah, most people that I took pictures up top too. It's one of the best views in the Smokies. You climb up there, and I told him I was going to climb down, and I'll take a picture when I get down there. I hollered, and he was still waiting for me. That's one of my favorite pictures. I was hiking along one day, and I saw all this stuff, and I thought, well, it's a bunch of trash, but it's actually an airplane crash. So this was a plane crash site. I think 8 people died there, and I don't think it was in the guidebook. I wasn't expecting it at all.
Where was that?
This is in the Smokies. A lot of the other hikers I asked, I said, what was all that? They didn't even see it. They just walked right by it and they didn't notice it was even there.
It's a military plane crash, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Transport, I believe it's a military transport plane.
Correct.
Yeah, guys, pitch in, please. And during the whole hike, I found about 4 or 5 of these different plane crashes. It's really sad. There was no monument or anything. You'd think they'd put a monument, Coming out of the Smokies, this is one of the first houses you see. It's standing bare. You don't want to camp all the time. You do have to do your laundry. You do want to pick up food. So this is one of the places we resupply. This particular hostel is a series of cabins. And you can rent this whole cabin. It's actually straddling a creek that goes right underneath the cabin, which is kind of neat. And then that cabin was all bunk beds, which is basically just wooden bunk beds with no mattresses on them. You bring your own sleeping bag and your own sleeping pad.
That's standing bear, isn't it?
Standing bear? That's right. And here's the trail magic tent. I walked up on. These guys had a trailer and a truck. They brought in some of these tents and all these chairs, and they fed us for free. It's called Trail Magic. Here's some of this bread. The hot springs. This is where Jennifer hikes. See,
Okay. hike that open.
The AT goes right through town, and it's marked by these diamonds. And for some reason, that's also where a lot of hikers are injured, or their injuries have caught up with them, and they've tried too hard, or a lot of hikers get off their hot springs. I wish this picture was showing up just a little bit better, but this is on top of Big Falls, and you can see some of the tents around and the fire, and we camped on top of this mountain specifically and watched the sunset. And we got this awesome thundercloud that never got to us, but looked like a spaceship or something.
That's awesome. It's a beautiful view on a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So that looks amazing.
So where'd you hang the hammock there?
I was gonna say, at cowboy camp. Which cowboy camping is just when you sleep on the ground like the cowboys did. You lay down, you roll, and you just sleep. And I did have a game plan in case it did rain. I put my in a nest right next to the trail, which the trail was just marked by fence posts with the AT, with the white blades on them. And so I had my hammock, my tarp kind of hanging off of that in case I needed to at least put it over me. But
So the majority of the hikers use a suspended hammock type of, or what's most popular, what made them choose the hammock style?
I would say, how many of you guys do tents? A lot of tents, so how many hammocks? We got 4. So, but mostly tents. I like the hammock. I did a tent during my pre-hikes and my practice hikes. And I found every rock in the forest, every ant, every mouse that could try to get in there, they drive you nuts. I wake up, my feet be sticking out the bottom because I was on a flat. They didn't know how to pick my spots. And so I tried a hammock, and I had a much better sleep. And it's not for everybody, but if you're curious, I think the weight is about the same. Even,
When you're suspended, is it colder or
Oh,
areas around?
it can get very cold. If you don't have an underquilt or some kind of insulation, you catch FBD, which is frozen butt disease. You don't want that because the air underneath you, man, it's something. So you gotta have some insulation. So I basically, the traditional way is to have a second sleeping bag that suspends underneath the hammock, and then you're in another sleeping bag inside.
I'd say the best benefit of a hammock is when it rains, you're high and dry. You don't have to worry about a river going through your tent.
Yes.
These guys are hitchhiking to Damascus for the Big Trail Days festival. He made that sign out of a pizza box. Pretty creative. Plus those shorts probably helped him get a ride too. Hitchhiking's a part of life on the trail.
Damascus, Virginia, right on there.
That's right. That's one of the trail towns that we go to. Yeah, this girl, the cat's name was Trail X. And she was real good about catching the mice at the shelters. And we were just riding that little nest on top of her backpack the whole way, Get out whenever they stopped, but it wouldn't run away or anything. And then this is in the Virginia Highlands. These wild ponies, they're not miniature ponies, they're about this tall. And they just run wild. They don't have any owners or anyone to feed them. They just take care of themselves and graze in the grass. They'll let you pat them, but you gotta be careful which ones, because some of them get. And other places.
Some of them try to bite.
Yeah,
Some of them will bite.
I haven't heard of people getting bit. In other places, the trail crosses a lot of different public property and over farming territory. This is how we get over the fences. You climb up and down, which looks easy, but it's harder than you think with a backpack on. Some people throw them over or whatever, but I would usually just keep going. And the dogs run underneath. If you bring a trail dog, they can go underneath the fence style there. This is in the Shenandoahs, and there's no hunting allowed there, so the animals feel comfortable around humans. We're not comfortable. They don't run away every time they see us. So there's lots of deer to see. You see deer every day. And this bear, I was walking around the corner, and he was standing right in front of me, and he was just eating, and he kind of gave me like that, say, bluff charge, tell me don't get any closer. So I just let him. He wandered off the trail a little, and he took this look, and then he went back to eating. So wild animals don't care about people if they have food to eat.
You didn't call us bluff?
I didn't run. I did flinch though. I ain't gonna say I didn't do anything. I did flinch, but I didn't run. I forgot to mention that when I started the trail, I was 250 pounds. And this is the front royal. This is probably, I think about, I don't know now. This is probably around 600 or 700 miles in, something like that. And as you see, I trimmed down quite a bit. I was probably around 200 right there. ATC setup in Harper's Ferry. And it's tradition every hiker gets their picture taken there. Here's mine. Here's my niece Kendall. This is a map that I had on, my mom had it on the back door, on the back of her door, and those are postcards that I mailed home. And my niece Kendall showing everyone where we are on the trail.
Yeah, we would take the postcards as close as we could to the area where we thought we were.
Yeah, awesome. It's a good way to, for the people at home to follow along.
Yeah.
That's a great map. I used one when my wife thru-hiked too.
Yeah.
Actually, I had it at work on an easel board, and I put a pin for the current location.
Oh, wherever she told you she was at, so you mark it. This is in Maryland, and Maryland's kind of short, but it's full of state parks and all these crazy monuments. This one's got horse heads hanging off of it, and there's a full-size statue, and that's me way at the bottom. Can you see the?
Yeah.
You can see me at the bottom. To show you how big this crazy thing is. And this particular gentleman, he built all this and the barn and 2 or 3 buildings out of all the local rock there. This is the Penmar Park. This is the Doyle Hotel. It's over 104 years old. And it's one of the landmarks. I usually don't go to the party places, but I had a great time there. They have great hamburgers. There's no air conditioning. Bring your own sleeping bag, same thing. But me and my buddies split a room for $7 each, so well, you can't expect much, right?
Yeah.
We thought this was a copperhead, but it's actually a rattlesnake. And we were looking at it, and, taking pictures of it. My buddy picked up a stick and says, "Here, this will make him really mad." I got away from him then. But I saw 5 rattlesnakes on the hike. When hikers take pictures of their food, they call it hiker porn. This represents some of the mail drops that we'd get. My mom and Kendall would make boxes up of food that I had gave a list, or ramen and the normal stuff, mashed potatoes, all that stuff, and they mail it ahead. Well, in this instance, it looks like a couple boxes caught up with me, and I ended up with all that at one time. But you can mail some of it ahead if you need to.
I have a question on
Yeah,
that.
please.
How do you project, how do you know where you're gonna be? How can you?
I would, she would email me, and she would say, "Where are you going to be next?" And I would say, "In 2 weeks I'll be in such and such town." And she had a guidebook, and it has all the addresses of the post offices in the back. And you can put general delivery, and then put your name, and then the address of the post office. Anyone can do it anywhere. And
they would hold it a week or whatever.
they hold it a month. As long as your name on it, and as long as you have your license, you can pick it up. And in this case, if you don't need them all, you can use the ones that you want. And the ones you don't open up, you can bounce to the next town. One time, Mom asked me what I wanted in my next box, and it said a meatball sandwich.
Yeah. It worked really smooth, but there was never an issue where there was a package lost or anything.
Well, there was some later. There was some that I got one by Christmas time.
Oh.
We set up in our house in Great. This is the Trailside Museum and Zoo in New York. The trail goes right through there. That's the actual AT that you see. And it's free for thru-hikers. It's actually the oldest part of the entire trail. And it's probably the only original section. Most other places have been relocated for some reason or another. And it was bear, they had local animals, the bear and the deer and all kinds of stuff. I broke my camera, and I was gonna have to pass the zoo and the fire tower and all kinds of stuff, and without taking any pictures. And I met this gentleman on the bridge painting, and I simply asked, I said, "Which way is the nearest store?" And he said, "Get in." So he took me he packed up all the stuff, drove me to Walmart, 10 miles away. We drove back, and he put his stuff back out, and he finished his painting. When I got home from my trip, he had mailed it to me. Isn't that awesome? And I talked to him just the other day. He's still painting all the time. The Appalachian Trail is its own trail station, also train station, also in Vermont. You take it right to Union Station. It stops on the weekends. This slide better shows the hammock without the tarp, and you can see better the insulation on the bottom. Again, to keep weight down, I didn't use a full length underquilt. I used a 3/4 to be as light as possible.
Did your feet ever get cold?
Later on, when it did get cold, I would actually put my feet in my empty backpack. And I know that sounds kind of primitive, but no. Most of the time, like I said, I started pretty late when it was already warmish. My feet just don't, my legs don't get that cold. This is Massachusetts, and this is the highest point in Massachusetts.
Not great.
Not Greylock. I should remember that because I'm from Massachusetts. It looks like a lighthouse in the mountains, I thought, and that big green ball at the top lights up bright green at night. We go through a lot of these bogs, and I just thought that was a pretty good Vermont. And we got to watch a meteor shower from on top of Mount Kilimanjaro that night. So that was pretty special. We saw probably 40 really good ones. But as you can tell, it was freezing cold, so we didn't stay up all night. These two actually lived in New York, but they hiked to Vermont, and they ended up living there. They used this picture as part of their wedding invitation. Is that pretty?
Yeah.
Anyone recognize the woman on the right?
Miss Janet.
That's Miss Janet. She started out as a hostel owner, one of the hostel owners, and she turned into a shuttle driver, which, she's based in Irwin, Tennessee. But she would just drive to the next, when the hiker bubble went past her, she'd just keep going and go on going. So this is pictures in New Hampshire, I believe. So I was surprised to see her there. There's Ranger Bill, Roboticus with their funny knee braces, Croc Hunter, and Miss Janet. As far as I know, they all finished as well. This is entering the White Mountains. This is stop the area that has the worst weather in America. And it's not a joke, because they had a lot of people die there. The highest recorded wind on Earth, on land. They had the record for a long time. That's somebody. 241 miles an hour. This is Lake of the Clouds hut. In the Whites, they have this system of huts that you can. It's not meant for thru-hikers. Thru-hikers can go there and you can get lunch. You could rent a room if you wanted, but they're $100 and up. So most thru-hikers don't have money like that. But each night they would take 3 or 4 thru-hikers and let them do what's called breakfast stay, where you clean the windows or you clean the tables or sweep or something, and they let you sleep on the dining room floor that night.
What if you didn't get work for stay? Did you have to keep hiking?
You have to keep hiking, so you have to plan it out. Usually they've already picked a crew about, before 3 o'clock.
Right.
So, but yeah, say if you hike and you really want to get to the next one and get work for stay, they've already picked a crew, you got no choice but to keep going.
You just keep hiking until you find somewhere to sleep?
Well,
And then the next hut, right? Because there's no stealth camping.
they have several huts, and then there's usually 1 or 2 campgrounds in between, not a traditional campground, but a camping area where you can set up your tent. And, but yeah, it's inconvenient if you're not expecting it and you have to keep going. And a lot of people ask me how did I use my hammock in the Whites, because there's no trees. It's above tree line. I would usually get to like a side trail, and I would hike down maybe half a mile or a mile, which is that's a lot more hiking. No one wants extra hiking. But I'd go further down until I found some trees. And one night in the Whites, I couldn't find any trees and it was dark, and I just had to camp again. I got under these they were Christmas trees about this tall, little bonsai Christmas trees, and I got into put a hole in the ground and slept there. But it was great because I had a good sunrise in the morning. This is on top of Mount Washington. That funny looking tower is the weather station. I like my clothes, they're pretty fancy.
That's the highest point in New Hampshire.
Yep, thank you. That's exactly right. This is going down Mount Madison. You can kind of see where the trail goes. That's my buddy Joe Ford right in the middle. And again, the winds was so high, it was probably in the 30s. The winds were in the 30s. I think like 36 is hurricane force. We walked down this about 3 or 4 miles. And when you stepped off one rock, when you got to the next one, you kind of float in midair for a minute because the wind would just hold you in place.
Are you still carrying 13 pounds at this point?
I'm on that picture, but probably less because I'm getting close to getting to town. So by then I've ate a lot of my food. It's probably getting close to 10 pounds. I know that sounds incredible, but
That's amazing.
that's how I did it. I didn't have much, and I didn't have much room for error. So I had to, several days I ran out of food early, or I can't say I was ever in danger because of it, but as a more inexperienced hiker might not have, I'm not an expert, but I had planned for this, and I planned for about a year, so I kind of knew what I was doing. I look pretty tired here. This is after lunch. And I have to bring this up, but I made a girlfriend on the trail. It's a long story, so I'm not going to get into all that, but it's in the book if you're curious. Lasted 2 years, is my world record. This is the beginning of the 100-mile wilderness. There are no places to obtain supplies or get help until the Old Bridge 100 miles north. It's not as quite as perilous as it sounds. There is a couple places you can duck off and get some food. You can also pay to have big buckets. You pay like $20 to have a big bucket filled with food and dropped off about halfway. And you pick it up when you get there. And 2 or 3 hikers can go in and pay for a bucket and do all that. But I didn't. I had about $18 at this point.
Somewhere in the hikers, an ice cream challenge, I think. Have you ever get to do that?
One of the high speed challenge?
No, ice
Half gallon challenge.
I should have showed that. I didn't show that. Yeah, back in the halfway point is that they call it the halfway challenge, and you eat a tub of ice cream as fast as you can. You don't have to do it as fast as you can, but there is a record everyone shoots for. And I thought I was going to knock that out, but it's more than you think. And in the book, I suggest you try it at home just to see how you could do on the record, and you get a tiny little wooden spoon for your prize. Another thing about Maine is they like to keep it wild, and you can see that sign pointing north, and on the other side of the river, there's 2 white places. So no bridges in Maine, so you have to ford across each of these rivers. This particular one was only probably knee deep, but yeah, it was getting cold again by this point.
They sometimes have a cleat stretch across this one.
Some do. Some of the short ones will have a cable between 2 trees, and you can just kind of grab on like this, work your way down. This gentleman here, this particular river, help me out.
Kennebec. It's the ferry.
Yep. This is the new ferryman. The original ferryman passed away, but this gentleman is the only place on the whole trail where you go across in a canoe, and he paints white blaze on the bottom of it, so you're not cheating. But 2 people have died there that I know of, so it's for safety reasons. And it was kind of fun. It was kind of exciting. I hadn't seen these guys since the Smokies, like 1,500 miles ago. One day they walk up and say, "Hey, Lorna, where you been?" And so it's kind of cool to catch up with these guys. They started out, this crew was about 10 people, and of course now they're about 4 or 5. We're getting closer. That's Mount Katahdin in the distance there. That's about 80 miles away. Now we're getting really close. That's probably about 20 miles away. This is from, I think, Bramble Ledges. And when I got there, when I got to the camp, the park where the Mount Katahdin is, I thought it'd be like Amarillo Falls. I thought there would be a gift shop and, I could buy snacks and at least a soda machine. I don't think they even had running water, so this was it. They had this and they had some more of those little shelters that you could stay at.
Did you do any fishing while you was on the trail?
No, not a big fisherman, but some other people did. Another gentleman I knew, he carried a full length fishing pole in one of those big plastic round containers. You think you could get a pocket fisherman or something, but he had the whole thing. This is my friend Roboticus, climbing up Mount Katahdin. This was the very last day. And the fun part for me, I couldn't afford to stay at Baxter State Park, so I camped right outside the perimeter. And then I hiked in that morning, 10 miles that morning, before I started my ascent. And the good part about it is I got to meet a lot of my friends coming down. They had already summited and took their pictures, and I got to see them when they came down. When I got there, I was the only one there. Everyone else had already started back down the mountain, so I had to take my own selfie pictures. Most people have them standing up on the sign or, doing all kind of crazy stuff, but this is the best I could do.
What's the feeling when you get to that point?
It was pretty exhilarating. I was exhausted for one thing, and I was in a hurry because I had to get back down the mountain before it got dark. But to finish 5.5 months, and to know you're going home, and to know, so many different things go through your mind. Just to touch the sign, it was the only thing hot up there. Everything else was freezing cold. And then when I came back down, I just turned around and big black clouds had just come right over the top of the mountain and covered it up. So I got out of there just in time. And here's some souvenirs that I kept. There's my little wooden spoon. You see it on the top of my duct tape wallet. I kept it. I mailed it home, but I still have it to this day. I always have it. And a couple of the airheads that I found in my apartment for the Smokies. And that's the patch that you get when you finish the trail. You get one of those patches. I think that's it. That might not be the exact one. But... Well, does anyone have any more questions? I'm sure you do. Hi, Connor.
You're a member of the 2,000 Miler Club.
Yeah. Thru-hikers have that designation of being in the 2,000 Mile Club. What do you get when you do it in sections? You just get, you're still in 2,000 Mile Club.
Yeah.
Whether you do it in sections or you're in the 2,000 Mile Club. But I think mine also has one that says Thru-hiker, a little riker that goes on top. You get a little extra one.
How many miles were you averaging at the beginning and then more towards the end?
Well, I was big, I was kind of fat, but I was pretty quick. I was doing 15s right away, which I recommend not maybe doing 10s or 8s or something like that at first. But I was doing 15s because my goal was to get to 20s as quick as I could. Because my goal for the ultimately was 100 miles a week. So that gives me a little good idea. But I didn't show the picture. But when I got done, I weighed 170 pounds. So I went from 250 to 170. And as you can tell, I gained it all back. Plus some more. When I got done with the trail, I kept eating like a thru-hiker and eating everything I found. And my girlfriend was a really good cook. And plus, I didn't want to waste anything. I was so used to using every resource that I had. I didn't have anything left. When I got to town, if I had a pack of oatmeal left, I didn't do my job right. I didn't plan it good enough. I wanted to get to town empty. So I ate everything I could find. I still need to get back to hiking. Another friend of mine said, next time you do the trail, you need to run it this time. Maybe I'll, because I got some. Some more questions?
So the majority of the folks do this start south and go north, or are there others that come the other way?
Majority start in the south and head north. That's the traditional way. But it's become more popular to do it starting in Maine and coming down. They call that Zobo. I was in Obo, northbound. But a lot of people do it that way. A lot of people also do the flip-flop. They might hike up as far as they can. They might hike up to Harpers Ferry and then fly all the way up to Katahdin and do that, and then come back to Harpers Ferry. If they don't think they can get it all done in a year's time, or they close Mount Katahdin in the middle of October. So if you're not going to reach it, sometimes you can go up there and then you can take your time coming back down. The other hikers do it in sections over many years. He's working on it. Odometer's done it. He said 20 years. He's been working. He did it in over 20 years. So there's no set way. You can do it in any sections as you want. If you want to be a thru hiker, a 2,000 miler, not a thru hiker, if you want to be a 2,000 miler, you want to complete the whole trail, you can do it in any way you want. Just keep track of where you're at.
Have you done other home trails?
Before that, I did the Foothills Trail, which is right here. It's in Table Rock, Osceola County, which I recommend to anyone because it's beautiful. 77 miles at the time I did it. I've done it several times though. You see a waterfall every day. It's marked with white blazes, so you can pretend you're on the AT. Plenty of water. You see a bear, one day, and a deer the next day. It's a great hike, and it's right in our own backyard.
We call it a training trail.
Yeah, that's what I did. I did all my training there too. And it's a good place. There's no shelters or food stops or anything like that, but it's a good place to get an idea if you like being in the woods 3 or 4 days or 5 days.
How do you treat your water? You have a filtering service?
A lot of people use filters. Again, for my ultralight hike, I use the Aquamera, which is basically bleach, watered down bleach. And you just get your water from any water source, a stream, or most times a stream, or some of the shelter sets were built around springs. And you just put that in there, and 20 minutes later you can drink all that stuff. But a lot of people use filters. I looked into them, but you gotta have a clean bottle and a dirty bottle, and you can't mix them up. And nowadays they have ones you can just screw on the top of your bottle. And those seem to be a lot better.
You can't just boil your water, boil the germs out.
You can boil it. You can do that.
That doesn't get rid of the grass and the dirt and the rock.
You filter it then boil it. I don't remember seeing anyone boil it on the trail though, unless it was really bad. It's just more convenient to use the filters. Most people use filters.
As long as you can't have open fires.
Some states you can't have open fires. You're right. New Jersey.
Okay, so you started out eating top ramen. Did you end up eating top ramen?
I ate top ramen all the time. I loved it.
And you didn't get sick of it. Did you doctor it to?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would put some pepperoni in there. I would put whatever you can find. Brent leaves I would put in there. One time I put cocoa.
Nice.
Yeah. You get creative out there. But I eat a lot of other things. I eat a lot of instant mashed potatoes. The rice sides, I love those.
I like the wraps you made. You were in one hotel room and you made like these wraps that had lettuce.
The hobo wrap.
The hobo wrap.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, I did that a lot on the trail too. And you can mix it up, and a lot of peanut butter. The normal stuff. I didn't have any secrets in my food bag. All my stuff was the traditional hiker food that most people use.
I remember,
Oh, what's okay.
I remember Mom used to go into like fast food chains and take the chocolates.
Yeah, so you get
And she would just go in there and swipe it.
the best was the Taco Bell hot sauce.
Hot sauce.
That really helps
Or
warm
the
it up.
jelly, the grape jelly.
Yeah, that's some good for
And
us.
she'd mail it to you. It was like a kid.
Yeah, there's small packets, and it would make a big difference.
Chick-fil-A's gotten to be a better one for all the
You
condiments.
get the honey and
And the Texas Pete hot sauce.
oh, they have Texas Pete. That's pretty good. Anyone else?
How do you know your hostels or whatever, your sleeping, lodging possibilities along the way? Do you have a book? Or how do you-
Yeah, I could have recommended I bring my guidebook and have people pass it around and let people look at it, but I didn't. That was a good idea, but I didn't do it. Yeah, there's a guidebook they print every year, and they print it in both versions for northbound or southbound, and it has a complete listing of all that.
There's a new one called Gut Hooks.
Yeah, the gut hooks came out since I did my hook. It's right under the phone.
It's amazing all the resources available. It's just all kinds of.
Yep, and it tell you they all have full hours, but they tell you the price and they tell you what they have and right where the mile marker where it's at, so you know where to get off the trail to look for.
So whenever you were doing the hike, of all the towns that you went through, I'm sure you had mostly good experiences with them being friendly towns, but which one would you say was your favorite trail town?
Wow, good question. I love Dartmouth. Dartmouth College lets you put the backpack in the basement so you can hang out and go around town without carrying all your stuff. And all the shops had something free for thru hikers. If you go into the donut shop, you get a free donut. Free pizza shop had a free pizza, slice of pizza. So that was probably one of them. But there was a lot. There was so many different ones. There was so many different good trail towns.
Did you ever go down the wrong trail?
I got lost twice. Once for about 2 hours. But I knew I was still on a trail, so I didn't get lost. I just ended up, what I recommend now is if you get lost, just backtrack where you already been, because at least you know it goes somewhere. If you just bushwhack into the woods, you're gonna get lost. The trails also blaze on both ways, north and south, so if you're headed this way and you don't see any white blazes, turn around. Maybe you'll see one on the other side of the tree. That kind of helped you out. You got a question?
What was your worst town?
Damascus was one of the worst. Like I said, that was the one I looked forward to the most, and ended up 3 hours later I was ready to go. Irwin, I had a lot of trouble in Irwin. I don't know what it was. Everyone I went to, no one wanted to let me pay them for services that they offer. You know, that's what they're there for. And I had a hard time there with the hotel guys. That was probably the worst one. Probably Damascus.
I had a question about rainy days. I wondered if you had a lot of rainy days and what was your strategy for a rainy day?
My year wasn't the worst for rainy days. It was a few rainy days. I had the cheap, again, the lightest poncho I could get. You get them a Family Dollar for $4 or $5. Just a cheap plastic one. I had to go through about 4 or 5 of those. But that's what I would wear, and it would be over top of my backpack. And my backpack had a trash compactor bag liner. And if you roll that up, you won't get a drop. Okay, well, a couple more.
How many shoes you need?
5 pairs of shoes. Some people go through 2 pairs of shoes. Another guy I know, he did it with only 1 pair of shoes the whole way.
Wow.
Yeah, in the year I went, so that's pretty good.
Explain a little more about your shoes because shoes are like cars.
Well, instead of, sometimes you have to make an emergency repair. And I used duct tape when I could. I always had a little piece of duct tape wrapped around my trekking poles. I carried plastic cable ties, just the little tiny ones, and that was really good to hold the sole. The front always wants to come off and flat when you're walking, so that fixed mine.
Where did you get your shoes?
Well, I bought my first pair, of course. I picked out the ones I wanted. My sister bought my second pair. She sent me the money, and I bought them at one of the outfitters along the way in Daleville. At the end of the trail, a guy watching I had videos of the whole entire trail on YouTube, saw the trouble I was having, and he mailed me a new pair of shoes. Brand new for free. And 1 pair I bought at Family Dollar. And I only made about 100 miles in those, and I had to get out.
And I have to ask if that was Pennsylvania in those shoes.
Huh?
Do you remember that?
Which one? What?
When you were wearing those boat shoes in Pennsylvania?
It was right around the McAfee Knob area, which was
Virginia, yeah.
Yeah, and there was pretty good climbing. The only reason I didn't go to the top of Dragon's Tooth is because my shoes wouldn't let me. So. But yeah, that was not a good section to go with those fake Vans. Well, we got to wrap this up, guys. I want to thank everyone for coming. It's a much bigger crowd than I thought. Yes, son?
Do you have books for sale?
Of course, I have books for sale. Usually $15. Today they're 10. Got some free stickers up here for you. So if you're interested in a book, come on up. If not, I appreciate everyone coming, and hopefully maybe we'll do this again sometime. We have a lot of people here. So I thank you.
Well, there you go. I hope you enjoyed that. I want to thank everyone who came out and had a great crowd. My hiking buddy Pat on the left, and Shuttlebuzz. She'll be doing her thru-hike in 2021. This is my buddy Nick and Katrina. Katrina's also an author. Don't forget, I film my whole hike on YouTube. Just look up Loner, and I still put out videos every once in a while. This is my niece Devin. If you don't have it already, please check out Painted Blazes. You can find the print or ebook on Amazon. Bye, everybody.
Who knows the first date before I say that? Too late now. Georgia. Supposed to say South Carolina, I'm not supposed to say that. Nonsense. The AT is not going to South Carolina.